I gave you the tasks to decide which is the enemy that we should affect its speed. And of course, this is the enemy that we've just understood that we've hit at him. This is the current value of enemy car index. That's why I should put here enemy car index to be equal to 0. And let's see how this is going on. Well, actually, I know how it's going to go because enemy speed x is not anything used now. I should change this part of my code here to use enemy speed x with index enemy car index, and you can now see no visible enemies. This is kind of using a value that is outside of the boundaries of the array enemy speed x, because actually we didn't put any specific value inside of it. And it's time to change, to remove my final copy and paste in my horrible code. I will delete all of this and instead write a line of code for enemy speed x. Again, I'm going to use enemy car index as an index for all those 3 lines. Enemy speed x might be a random number up to 5. Actually, this is kind of dangerous because speeds can be up to 5, which sounds nice, but as small as 0.0001 or something like this, which is not nice. So perhaps I can add 2 to this, and now I'm going to have a random values from 2 up to 2 plus 5, which is 7, which is also nice. So I will add all those 3 lines in the curly brackets of a for, like this. And here I'm going to count from with enemy car index starting from 0, while enemy car index is smaller than enemy count. And on each such step, enemy car index should become 1 plus its current value. This is a pretty usual for. We are going to use it almost always when we have an array and we want to do something for all of its elements. You should be careful not to touch outside of the array boundaries, for example, by putting here smaller or equal, because this is going to make a step for enemy count too. So if you write it like this, you can now use enemy index here and here. And of course, it's going to be much more interesting if not all of the cars are on the same x and y. So I can, for example, choose a random y up to 600, or perhaps this is not the best number, and a random x up to 8,000. Wait, what? The playing field is only 800 pixels. Isn't this wrong? No, not really. I'm fine with this. And you can see that because of this number, I don't see any enemy cars. This is not a problem. I can go and chase them, and here they are. So apparently 8,000 is not such a bad number. I will do something that will make the game much more interesting, and it is to change the enemy count from 3 to 99. Is this going to work? Huh. Well, you can see a lot of cars that are chasing each other, and you can see that when I hit one of them, not only I stop, but the enemy stops too. And it stops in a pretty sad way. because I am able to slowly crawl or jump over it, but it's stopped forever. That's because we never changed the speed of the enemy cars, and I don't know, I think this is maybe fine. Well, if you want, you can write a line of code to slowly change the speed of the enemy cars, especially those ones that you've hit, and perhaps let them again start running after a while, after you're outside of them. But this is one of the many tasks that I want you to do in your homework. I want you to think for a more realistic way to handle collisions. Stopping both cars is not really realistic, and usually when you hit enemy car from behind, it's a good idea that this enemy car will be faster and the player will be slower. So this is your third task, and also fourth task is about how to change the speed of the enemies. You can use the formula that reduces the player's speed always. Well, you can use it also not only for any update, but also for those updates in which there is a collision, and you can use it with a other number such that the player slows down much more. So this is about tasks 3 and 4. Tasks 1 and 2 are much more boring. I really think that you've made task 1 long ago. The ability for the player to go up or down. You will need new ifs that check is key pressed for the other arrows. And when the player can go up and down, you should prevent him from going outside of the playing field, perhaps by slowing him down. Your fifth task of your homework is to add new enemy cars as the time passes, as the game progresses. For example, you can use the cars that are too far behind the player, because if you notice, if I just hold the right arrow key, sooner or later I will be able to overtake all of the enemy cars, and the game will be horribly boring. So you definitely need some way to add new cars in front of the player, and taking old cars is one of these possibilities. Other possibility that I want you to also be able to do is to take cars that never existed on indexes that never existed, which is going to be kind of using elements outside of the array boundaries. Well, not really. If you increase enemy count and if you give them specific initial values when creating them, I think that everything will be fine with your new cars. So perhaps do task 5 in both those two ways. In task 6, I want you to let each enemy car have its own different car image. You will need an array of images for this task. It appears that there is such a thing. Not only a variable that stores an image, but also a variable that stores an array. And each of the elements in this array can be itself an image. Whoa. Okay. So you will need a lot of images for the different cars. For example, you can have only 3 images, and they can be named first car, second car, third car. Then you will need specific lines of code like this one. And for now, this solution is good enough. After a few lessons, we will be able to load different file names with a for loop without having a specific line of code for each file name. This is interesting. It is something that I'm going to teach you soon. For now, just copy and paste the lines of code that will load each different image in a different index of the array. In task 7, I want you to make the game multiplayer so that we know the X and Y and size of each of the players. So those things are now going to be arrays too. This thing is going to be array too. And each player will have its own keys for speeding up, for slowing down, for moving up or down. Also, let's have different car image for each player. In this game mode, let the camera follow player 0. In task 8 is actually addition to task 7. In order to check whether any of the enemies has hit any of the players, you will need nested for loops. We had such a thing when we were making a firework and we were counting any of the columns and any of the rows. And in task 9, I want you to make the game. I want you to make the camera follow the last of the human players. So the better players that are in front of him are going to stay a little bit to the right, but still in the playing field. There they will be able to see. But the most left player, the slowest one, will be selecting the camera X according to its real MyX. Another idea to have multiplayer arrays can be to have split screen view and different parts of the screen to show different stuff that are near each player. I think that you have seen split screen games and you can Google them if you want. Perhaps the left half of the playing field will show things around player 0 and the right part will show things around player 1. I think that what we did today was pretty nice and pretty epic. And I think after you finish those homework tasks, your game will be even better. Good luck!